Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I'm going to do something that a lot of people have requested of me. They've asked me to give them an example of a true natty, how to spot a true natty, a real natty, someone not on any anabolic steroids who's known out there in the community. Some people may not like my approach to this, but I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going to pick people for this series, if I do it at all as a full series, who have fairly average genetics. They're not particularly genetically gifted in any one area, and there's a reason for that. The thing is, if people want to see what can be done naturally, it should be what could be done naturally by most people if they possess the knowledge, the work ethic, and are willing to put in the time to get there. What's someone who is extremely genetically gifted in the area, combined area of gaining muscle, staying leaner, having fuller muscle bellies, longer insertions, maybe a smaller waist, broader shoulders, things like that, who has that combination of genes, of several different genes combined together, and maybe who recovers faster and responds better to training. What they can do naturally is completely irrelevant to the rest of the world. And in fact, that person, even if they don't go on gear at all, doesn't know and understand these struggles of the average person who doesn't recover as fast as they do or respond as quickly as they do to training. They have a larger margin of error. Many of them are successful without knowing what they are doing because they're genetically gifted. And it's the same way as if you wanted to know if you were a marathon runner. Let's throw aside lifting and everything else. Let's say if you wanted to be a marathon runner and I were to show you an example of what you could do, but I go pull the people from that one tribe in Ethiopia who win all the distance running events around the world. They are by far the single most genetically gifted group of people anywhere in the earth for distance running because they have less muscle fibers and less muscle tissue in their calves and thus have a lower swing weight. They get tired less fast when running and they burn less calories when running than every other group of people on earth. They are genetically gifted for distance running, and if I were to use them for an example, it would be using a stupid example for everyone else to follow. And if people are going to follow these people for their knowledge, they oftentimes have not had to learn the skills to be able to teach you. They're just gifted. It comes easier to them. They don't actually have to learn the best way to do things. And on top of that, if we're going to single people out to look at as an ideal or to listen to, we're basically just singling out those people because of their genetic gifts. That's like saying, I'm just going to listen to this person because they're born with blonde hair, blue eyes, and pale skin all together, and they're tall. That's what we're talking about at that point. So rather than do that, let's look at people who are genetically average. And I'm going to give you guys the example today of Dr. Helms. And I want to use him because people might argue, oh, that's the best I can do natural. Well, he has a natural pro card. He's won natural pro shows. He is very successful in natural bodybuilding. He also competes very successfully as a drug-tested powerlifter. And I know the drug testing doesn't mean anything, but when you look at his total training style and what he knows, the fact of the matter is he has still stayed well under the natural limit. And that shows you guys also that if you're not genetically gifted, these 25 fat-free mass indexes when lean actually still don't apply to you. That's for the genetic elite, not for the average Joe. When you look at Helms, when he competes, he's 5'11", 180 pounds. He probably gets as lean as 6% body fat. That puts his fat-free mass index at 23.8 when in contest condition. So he's not massive, but he's still successful. And I think Helms, if you look at his history, he has a PhD in nutritional science. He did his actual doctoral work studying competitive bodybuilders and dieting. So this is actually what his PhD is in, is dieting for bodybuilding shows. He did his doctoral work in that. So he has an extremely advanced knowledge of nutrition as it applies to competitive bodybuilders. His training knowledge is very advanced. He uses some of the more advanced undulating periodization models and everything in his training and the coaching that he does for others. He coaches other people very successfully. And he's been at this for a decade. So this is an example of what you can do if your knowledge of nutrition and training are very advanced and you're willing to work for a decade. This is a perfect example of what can be achieved drug-free for someone who doesn't have amazing genetics or just the average Joe who's willing to dedicate those things to it. So how to spot a true natty? Someone who actually really knows nutrition, really uses advanced training methods, applies themselves for a decade, still gets lean, gets big, still has a fat-free mass index under 23.8. When he's ripped, He's not full. He doesn't have the shrink-wrapped look that you expect from guys who are on drugs, that dry look under the skin combined with a fullness. He looks a little flat and stringy no matter what he does when he's really lean. So you combine those factors together, you've got someone who is a true natty, who clearly has the knowledge and the time put in to get about as far as you're going to get drug-free. He just doesn't have the genetics to have the look that everyone seems to think that they're supposed to have. That for most people, they can't even obtain it with drugs, and if they do obtain it, it's going to have to be with drugs. And there's a perfect example of a true natty. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.